Good morning. Thank you all for joining us. We're just going to give folks a moment to clear the waiting room and connect to audio. As a reminder, when you are entering from the waiting room, please do remain on mute unless or until you are appearing or testifying before the board. Good morning. This is a hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Tuesday, January 30th, 2024. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman of the Board, Kathleen Joyce.
Thank you, Danny. Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm Chair of the Boston Licensing Board. And today I'm joined by my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Liam Curran and Commissioner Kiana Saxon.
Thank you. Please ensure that your audio and visuals are working properly. We'll call each item in the order that it appears on this morning's agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record, and the licensee or their representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions by the chair and commissioners. All testimony will be limited only to those individuals with firsthand personal knowledge of the alleged incident. Beginning with the first item on this morning's agenda, calling item number 1, Union Street Hospitality, Inc., doing business as the White Bull, located at 1 Union Street. Date of the incident, August 26th, 2023. Assault and battery, employee on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board. Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With me this morning is Jeffrey Baird, who is the manager of record and owner-operator. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Edward Lucas.
Detective James Walsh.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
Officer Lucas.
Officer Lucas, thank you. You may please proceed.
About 12:31 a.m. on August 26, 2023, Officers Lucas and Scott in the Alpha 103 responded to a radio call for a disturbance outside of the White Bull Tavern, 1 Union Street, Boston. Upon arrival, officers observed the victim, Stephen Connor, standing at the corner waiting for an ambulance. At the time of the incident, Connor was working as security at the White Bull Tavern. Connor stated that while attempting to remove a patron, he was attacked. During the incident, Connor stated the suspect bit him in the elbow. Officers were directed to the front of the establishment where the suspect, Griffin Phaneuf, was still standing. Officers spoke with Phaneuf, who had a small amount of blood on his nose. Phaneuf stated that after a failed attempt to meet a female, a friend of that female told him to leave. Phaneuf stated he pushed the unknown male party, to which a small fight occurred inside the bar. Phaneuf stated that the bouncers attacked him for no reason prior to throwing him out. Phaneuf claimed he did nothing wrong, but told different officers different versions of the story, later claiming that he was pushed first. Phaneuf declined EMS. Connor spoke with Boston EMS and declined transport. The Alpha 81, Lieutenant Detective Demesman, arrived on scene and completed a license premise violation. Phaneuf was released and told not to return.
Thank you very much. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
If I might, officer, the report indicates that Mr. Connor, who's an employee, is described as the victim. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is it possible then that the verbiage of the incident should have been assault and battery patron on employee as opposed to the other way around?
I don't complete the license premise violations, so, it's hard for me to answer that. I just wrote the report as the facts were given to me.
Understood, understood. But you described the person who worked for the establishment as the victim.
Correct, from the
He's the
information
one,
we
he's
had
the
on
one who
scene.
was bit, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Correct,
And then was he cooperative with you, the employee?
he was.
Okay. And was the incident report written up that same evening to your knowledge?
It was, yes,
And that indicates that the owner manager cooperated with the police, that's correct, yes?
correct.
And that the police were called by the licensee or the premise.
I believe, Jeffrey Baird was the individual who called 911. I can't swear to that, but I believe, from my memory, it was Jeffrey Baird that called the police.
Okay, thank you, sir. I have no further questions. And was there a detective involved as well? Yes.
Detective Walsh, I'll read the supplement that was written by Lieutenant Detective Demesman. At about 1 a.m. on August 26, 2023, Lieutenant Detective Demesman, as the Alpha 81, did respond to 1 Union Street and issued license premise violation 761 to the White Bull Tavern. The violation stemmed from incident 232-068-365. Such incident alleged that bouncers from such premise did assault and batter a patron by pushing such patron to the ground. The patron suffered a bloody nose and was pushed but refused medical assistance. Licensed premise incident issued without incident.
And detective, you have no personal knowledge of this incident?
No, I responded. I did not respond. I spoke to the bouncer and the victim as well. That was pushed to the ground.
Okay. And you were present when the report was read that the person, the bouncer, Mr. Connor, was described as the victim. He's the one who was bit by the assailant?
Correct. It appears to me that
Confusing.
there are assaults on both the doorman and the patron.
Okay, okay. And Detective Demesman, he was not present for the actual incident. He wrote it up afterwards, correct?
He responded when the police were called.
Okay, all right, thank you. And it's his report that indicates management cooperated and the licensee called the police.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. And detective did, I mean, Mr. Baird indicates to me that he's had, he provided video to, I think, Detective Hernandez. I don't know whether Detective Hernandez is here today, but in any event, we have video of the incident and we'll provide it to the board today. But Mr. Baird informed me that he gave the video to Detective Hernandez following the incident. We'll provide it today to the board. And I don't see Mr. Baird. Can you, Mr. Green, is he present?
I do see him, he's raising his hand.
Okay. Can we just swear him in for, oh, he's been sworn.
He's been sworn in already, yes. I just asked him to unmute.
Okay. Mr. Baird, can you just, were you present on the night in question?
Yes, I was. Yes.
And are you the manager of record of the establishment?
Yes, I am.
And is Mr. Connor an employee of yours?
No longer. No.
No longer, but he was on the night in question.
He was a manager that night. Yes.
Okay. And can you just state to the board, precisely in your opinion, what occurred that night, what happened?
Yes, there was a shoving match between a group of customers. His name was Griffin. And in the video, you can see that Steve went over to break it up, and you can't really see how they went to the ground. But when Steve tried to turn him to ask him to leave, he bit Steve. And that's when they went to the ground. And then we escorted Griffin out without any further. He walked out easily. We walked him out. I called 911. I actually talked to Griffin for a good 20 minutes or maybe 10 minutes until the police arrived to try to keep him there. In the meantime, Steve saw Boston EMS and also went to the hospital for bites, and I have hospital reports as well.
Okay.
He did what you could in the video clearly shows that Griffin was the aggressor to another group of individuals that, thank God, they did not push back until Steve went in, and you can see in the video the flashlight to other security to come over and help him.
Okay. And in the process, is your opinion that in the process of Mr. Connor trying to remove this patron, the patron turned and bit him?
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
So that, okay, and you, as you suggested, you called the police? And
I
you
did,
stood by and cooperated after that?
yes.
And did you provide a video to one of the detectives subsequent to the night?
When I received the licensed premise, the notice came by, I don't know what the date was, but sometime beginning of January, maybe end of December. Detective Hernandez delivered me the violation, and that's when I showed him I had the video.
Okay,
So I can,
and then we'll provide that video again to the board today. Yes?
yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Board may have some questions for you.
I have one question. The police report says that that the bouncer was trying to remove the patron. It might be clear in the video, but in your words, why was this person being removed?
Because he was starting a fight with another group of patrons.
Okay, that's why. Okay.
Yeah, it clearly shows in the video him pushing this other group of individuals. And that's when Steve noticed it was happening and went over and he just, put his hands on his shoulders to get him to leave, and that's when he bit him right away.
Okay.
It would appear from the report that whoever this person is, Fanouf, was trying to approach some woman, and the people with her kind of told him no, and that's when things started. That's where.
Yeah, you can see in the video him trying to talk to a girl, and then the other guys were getting in front of him, and it just, how it goes.
Okay, I have no further questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
No, I'll just wait on the video. Thank you.
No questions from me, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Take this matter under advisement, and I will share the video with our commissioners once received.
Thank you.
Thank you. Calling item number 2, the Summers Corporation doing business as Mr. Dooley Boston Tavern located at 77 Broad Street. Stated the incident August 27th, 2023. Assault and battery, patron on patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. And assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, a glass, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 15A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee? Oh, thank you, Ms. Summers. Yep, I see you. Just asked you to unmute so we can hear you. Okay. Thank you. If you could just identify yourself for the board.
Noelle Summers, COO, Mr. Dooley's manager on record.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective Walsh.
Thank you, Detective Walsh. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, Detective Walsh. If you could please proceed with the police report.
About 1:16 a.m. on Sunday, August 27th, 2023, Officer Camel, while assigned to the Alpha 435 unit, responded to a radio call for an assault and battery in progress, 77 Broad Street, Mr. Dooley's. Officers received a report from the victim via 911 call taker that a black female, suspect number 1, who was later identified as Jornette, and who was wearing a red dress and had struck the victim with a glass at the location stated above, Mr. Dooley's, then fled on Broad Street towards State Street. Shortly after this initial report, the 911 call was updated that the black female was accompanied by suspect number 2, a 6-foot-tall white male wearing a black shirt and jeans. Officer Roca, who was assigned to the Alpha 426 unit, Officer Paulino, who was assigned to the Alpha 421, and Officer Grady and Curran, who were assigned to the Alpha 101, also responded. Upon arrival, officer spoke with the victim. The victim appeared to be bleeding from his head and left hand as he was conscious and alert at the time. Officer Camel observed a piece of clear glass shard falling out of the back of the victim's head. The officer also observed the victim to be bleeding from a large laceration on his left hand. The victim stated to the officer both suspects had pushed him and hit him. The victim said that during this time he was struck with the glass. Officers were also made aware that a witness, a bouncer at Dooley's bar, observed the altercation continued outside. Specifically, suspect number 1 and suspect number 2 attacking the victim. The victim further reported that suspect number 1 was accompanied by number 2, who was later identified as Larono. The victim also reported that both suspects fled the area towards State Street. The victim described suspect number 2 to be a tall white male, about 6 feet in height, long hair, wearing black t-shirt. He was about 190 pounds. Then shortly afterwards, Boston EMTs responded in ambulance A6 and evaluated the victim. Boston EMTs transported the victim to MGH for further treatment. Officer Camel searched the area and was able to locate and stop both suspects who fit the descriptions given by the victim and witness at Water and Congress Street. At the time of the stop, Officer Camel observed what appeared to be blood stain on suspect number 1, upper left side of her chest. Suspect number 1 did not appear to have any visible lacerations. Officer Kanye and Roca also responded to Water Street and Congress Street to assist. Officer spoke with the witness and then conducted a bring back of the witness, Lally, who positively identified both suspects who were involved in the altercation outside Mr. Dooley's, where Officer Camel placed both suspects under arrest for assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon and assault and battery. Shortly after placing both suspects in handcuffs, Officer Camel was informed that the witness observed suspect number 1 struck the victim with a glass inside the bar. Officer then placed suspect number 1 under arrest for assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon, glass. Officer Kanya, followed by Officer Roca, transported the suspect to A1 for booking. Criminal complaint was filed against suspect number 2 at Boston Municipal Court. After following up with the victim via telephone at District A1, the witness informed Officer Campbell that there were 2 altercations, one inside the bar and another outside the bar, where the witness had actually observed the suspects attacking the victim outside the bar. Upon follow-up, the victim via telephone at District 1, the victim informed Officer Campbell that he is still at the hospital, and suspect number 2 had pushed the victim under the table while punching the victim with a closed fist. The victim now stated that he was unsure which of the 2 suspects had struck him with the glass. After reviewing the totality of circumstances with the duty supervisor, Sergeant Davis, suspect number 2 charged elevated to assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon, joint venture, and assault and battery. And then I just have a supplement report. About 9 p.m. on September 2nd, Detective Walsh and Keneally issued a licensed premise violation at Mr. Dooley's Bar, 77 Broad Street, for patron assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, glass. And expired inspectional services department permit. Bar manager Stuart Abbott accepted and signed for the violation, also produced an active inspectional services department permit. Mr. Abbott stated he would send detectives video of the incident. And that was all.
Thank you, Detective. Ms. Summers, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yeah, so it first started within the bar. It happened really quickly. The doorman tried to get the patrons out. In the meantime, our head of security, Connor Lally, who was the witness, called the police. Then they got them outside. They continued to fight outside. Our doormen were still trying to separate them. One of our doormen actually got a few scratches as well. And then the 2 suspects ran off. And the victim was still at Dooley's waiting for the ambulance, and the police came. And then Connor assisted the police in identifying the suspects, and video was turned over to the detectives.
Thank you. We'll see if the board has any questions. Starting with Chairwoman Joyce, any questions?
Thank you. No, Ms. Summers answered the questions I had in her explanation of the facts that night. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
Are we gonna get the video? Do you have it, Ms. Summers, or does someone from BPD have it for us?
So the Boston police do have the video, but I can also send a copy as well.
Okay, and were you able to observe it? Is it clear? What does it show?
Yes, it's clear. It shows them inside the bar. They have words, and it happens really quickly. The fight, then they get them out, and that's what you'll be able to see.
Okay, thank you.
No questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this under advisement. If you can, send that video either to licensingboard@boston.gov or hand deliver it on a flash drive to room 809 City Hall. We'll make sure it's distributed to the commissioners. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Calling item number 3, Big Night Venues Boston 2 LLC, doing business as Empire, located at 1 Marina Park Drive. Date of the incident, August 17th, 2023. Assault and battery, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Green, Kristen Scanlon for the licensee, and also signed on with us this morning is Charlie Kane, who is the Director of Security for the licensed premises.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Sullivan, and I apologize, my camera's not working.
Thank you, Officer Sullivan. Can you affirm to the board that you will raise your right hand when asked to do so?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals who would like to with first-hand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Okay, Mr. Kane, Officer Sullivan, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the
Yes,
truth,
sir.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Yes, sir.
Thank you. If you could please proceed with reading the police report into the record for us.
About 1:59 a.m. on Thursday, August 17th, 2023, Officer Sullivan and LeGrand and the Fox 101 Alpha respond to a radio call for a fight at 1 Marina Park Drive, Empire Restaurant. Assisting units Fox 102, Fox 201, Fox 441, Fox 499, Fox 422, and the Fox 915. Had notes stated prior to officer's arrival, male caller reporting a massive fight outside of Empire. Caller states there's 50 people fighting, unknown weapons, unsure if weapons involved. Caller states he heard of a weapon, possible gun, no weapon seen. Upon arrival, officers observed a large group of people screaming at each other in front of Empire Restaurant, located at 1 Marina Park Drive. Officers were able to separate all parties involved. Officers observed multiple individuals with scratches. Each of these parties refused to be evaluated by EMS. All parties involved in the altercation were uncooperative with officers on scene and unwilling to give the information or tell officers what had started the physical altercation. Officers were able to speak with one individual regarding the mention of a firearm on scene. This unknown individual stated that she overheard an unknown male state, "If that was my ground fight, I'd start shooting." The reporter was unable to identify the male who made the statement. It should be noted that no party at scene saw a firearm. The Fox 915 Sergeant Albany issued a license premise violation. Body-worn cameras were activated. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Attorney Scanlon, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, thank you. Just a few questions for Officer Sullivan. Officer Sullivan, upon arrival, no weapons or firearm were witnessed by police, correct?
No, ma'am.
And the extent of the injuries witnessed were minor scratches on unknown parties, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
No EMS was requested or required at the scene?
No, ma'am.
And to your knowledge or from your own personal experience, was staff cooperative with BPD that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
Reports indicate that all patrons were uncooperative with police that evening, correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
And no patrons cooperated in identifying any other patrons who started the alleged altercation?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Officer Sullivan. Momentarily, Mr. Kane can testify to the events that occurred that evening, and the board can review the video that we will send them as well. But the video is conclusive of the main facts of the police report. Additionally, from that evening, a bottle server alerted security to a verbal altercation between females, seemingly out of nowhere inside. It was near closing time, so the lights were on as the wind down process of the evening.
Attorney Scanlon, we've lost you. Your screen and audio have both frozen. See if she's able to.
Attorney Green, I believe she was going to turn it over to me at that point, but whatever you want to do, sir.
Oh, it looks like she's unfrozen actually right now.
Okay.
Attorney Scanlon, are you with us?
Back now?
Yes, you're
Yep.
back now. We lost you right in the middle of your statement.
Okay, sorry about that, but stable now?
Yep, we're stable now.
Great, great. I'm not sure where you lost me, but I didn't get too far until I heard you say you lost me. So just to reiterate, a bottle server, towards the end of the evening when the wind down process had begun, alerted security to a verbal altercation that had began between two females seemingly out of nowhere. Security immediately responded during the verbal altercation. And as they were responding, a drink was thrown by an unknown female party. The licensee will include footage for the board leading up to the verbal altercation and the subsequent drink being thrown to support the fact that this altercation seemingly appears and starts out of nowhere. There was nothing foreseeable earlier that evening that would have otherwise put security or alert regarding these patrons or any other patrons for that matter. You'll see from the video that there is a female dressed in all white that is the aggressor, and she is immediately removed and escorted from the premises. One of the managers at that point immediately called police, which is corroborated in the police report. The female that's dressed in white then rushes back inside and security proceeds to remove her again and is also starting to clear all patrons from the establishment as it's near closing time. It's unclear who is with who as far as the patrons you'll see in the video, but you'll see from several minutes different patrons trying to get the female to leave the premises outside and get her to calm down, where she continues to verbally and physically assault security staff at the door and wants to get back in. There are unknown male and female patrons trying to stop her outside as well. Can't quite tell, and it's frankly unknown who she's trying to go after or what she's trying to accomplish, but she's pushing what seems like friends who are trying to calm her down. During this time, this was going on for approximately 8 of the 11 minutes before police arrived. After the 911 call, a bigger altercation then ensues between unknown patrons outside. Security was outside for those 8+ minutes trying to disperse folks and de-escalate. Then someone heard something about a gun, which was relayed to management, and management made that decision to retreat and pull security into the door for safety reasons and the potential gravity of the situation given the supposed threat. As I mentioned, BPD arrived at approximately 11 minutes following the 911 call and their arrival. The security presence that evening was ample and adequate and handled to the best of their ability given the uncooperative crowd. It is worth noting, and as stated by Officer Sullivan and in the police report, there's no issues with any patrons earlier that evening, including this one earlier in the evening. Also, no injuries were witnessed or reported other than a few minor scratches on unknown individuals. No weapons were seen or used, and no witnesses to any alleged weapon, only words spoken in the mix of the crowd. At this time, I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Kane, if I could, to further address the alleged incident.
Good morning, Attorney Green and members of the board. I'll be brief just to overview what Attorney Scanlon said. Lights were on and last call was at 1:40 a.m. You'll see in the video, it looks like daytime inside. At approximately 1:48, there's a verbal altercation between 2 females, one in all white jumpsuit and another female in all black. Security is immediately there within 2 minutes, 2 seconds, 2 security officers, in an attempt to de-escalate the situation. While they de-escalate the situation, an unknown female from one of the parties throws a drink, and then it turns into a physical altercation at approximately 1:50 a.m. At which time the 7 security officers, 2 managers from Empire and 2 nightlife managers involved in dispersing and de-escalating the situation, clearly visible in the video. The girl in the white is the aggressor. She's escorted out, charges back in, she's escorted back out again. Immediately, General Manager Ryan Tobin calls 911 to alert them that we have a altercation that is spilling out the front door onto Northern Ave. At that time, I was immediately notified by my senior security manager, Melton Howard, who responded from the Grand. to assist and evaluate the situation as to what was going on in real lifetime. It was basically an unforeseen incident. Just like to note that on the Thursday of the following night, there was a Miami-based company that was doing a music festival in the WS lot across the street from our venue. It appears a lot of the crowd on that Wednesday evening was not our regular local crowd in the establishment. I believe security and management did a great job in assisting and dispersing the crowd immediately, and it corroborates on our internal investigation what they notified to me real time that evening. Escalated quickly and was handled properly and timely by the staff following protocols and procedures as governed by the Boston Licensing Board and also by Big Night. The video we can provide for you inside and outside will show the females are very aggressive, super uncooperative, combative, assaultive to security and other patrons. And it appears to be their boyfriends or male friend parties. It appears to be all females involved in the altercation. And I immediately, 3 days later, called detectives at Area C6 to follow up and advised them that we had video to provide for them. At that time, I was advised that there were no victims and that they were not going to assign a detective to it. We still did preserve it and created a file with the license premise violation that we can provide the video to the board at this time. That is all.
Thank you. Attorney Scanlon, anything further before we move to the board for questions?
Nothing further at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see if there are any questions, starting with Chairwoman Joyce.
I have no questions. Thank you.
None for me, thank you.
None for me, thank you.
Thank you. We will wait for submission of the video. In that case, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 4, CHLN Inc., doing business as the Chart House located at 58 to 60 Long Wharf. Date of the incident, July 23rd, 2023, assault and battery in violation of Mass General Law 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Morning, Attorney Green, John Connell from Upton, Connell and Devlin for the licensee. And I believe I have Brian Kirk here, the manager of record.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Matthew O'Neill.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you both please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you, Officer O'Neill. If you could please proceed with reading the police report into the record for us.
Yes, sir. About 7 p.m. Sunday, July 23rd, 2023, Officer O'Neill and Mendez in the Alpha 202 Frank responded to an assault and battery report at 60 Long Wharf, Boston, the Chart House. Officer O'Connor and the Alpha 421 assisted. On arrival, officers spoke with the manager, Nicole Marino, who stated a former employee, Kevin Leonardo, entered the restaurant and took a seat at the bar. Officers observed Leonardo laying on the ground inside the bar, complaining of pain in his left arm. Leonardo was helped to his feet and appeared to be highly intoxicated due to him being unsteady on his feet, slurring his words, and a strong odor of alcohol emanating from his breath. Leonardo told officers an unknown staff member asked him to leave and physically pushed him off the bar stool, causing the injury to his arm. Officers did not observe any visible injury to Leonardo's arm, and Officer Mendez radio for Boston Emergency Medical Services over Boston Police Radio Channel 2. Marino advised officers Leonardo had been verbally trespassed from this address in the past and was served one mixed alcoholic beverage by bartender Andrew Ivy, who was unaware of the previous ban for Leonardo. Marino stated she informed Ivy of the trespass notice, and both employees asked Leonardo to leave multiple times, to which he refused. Ivy stated he turned Leonardo's bars to an effort to help escort him off the property, and Leonardo fell to the ground, claiming he was pushed. Sergeant Detective Jefferson was notified for a license premise violation. Boston EMS, ambulance A1, EMTs Avila and Ramos arrived on scene and transported Leonardo to Tufts Medical Center for further evaluation. And that's all.
Thank you. Attorney Connell, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Thank you, Attorney Green. I have here with me Brian Kirk. He's the manager of record. I believe he's been the manager of record for about 14 or 15 years. And in that time span, this licensee has had no prior violations. On the night in question, Mr. Kirk was not there, but he did come in. He interviewed all the employees. And it's pretty much as Officer O'Neill wrote in his report. This person came in, he's been long banned from this establishment. He was a former employee. He's been banned for intoxication and smashing a glass globe in a violent act years ago. Whenever he's come in, they've asked him to leave and he's always obeyed. This time he came in, he started yelling and making a scene. He said he wanted to make a scene. Employees came out of the kitchen who knew who he was and knew of the ban and asked him to leave several times. He refused, and they turned his bar stool to help escort him out, and he fell to the floor. The officer suggested it might be because he was drunk, but we think he was just faking it, to be honest. And he laid on the floor until the officers arrived. We think the licensee handled this in the best appropriate manner, did a great job. It's unfortunate, but if the board has any questions, Mr. Kirk is here to answer them.
Thank you. We'll see if there are any questions, starting with Chairwoman Joyce.
When you say the staff turned the bar stool, what does that mean? Turn it upside down?
No,
Well,
no, go ahead.
Well, I'll let the witness go ahead.
No, he turned his bar stool like in a circle towards the door because he was like trying to pin himself to like the bar and the bar top and in his chair. And he was refusing to leave, calling everybody the N-word for a good 10, 15 minutes. And obviously it wasn't going well in the dining room for the guests because it's not a bar. This is a family restaurant. So and just to clear one thing up, the bartender is Michelle Trainer, and the Andrew Ivy is actually a manager. So So Andrew Ivy is the one that actually the manager that went to turn his chair around to help him escort him out the front door. When doing so, Kevin fell to the floor and then he refused to get up because he wasn't leaving and then continued calling people the N-word. So.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
I have no questions. Thank you.
No questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Calling item number 5, 186 Harvard Ave Bar LLC, doing business as Han, located at 178 to 188 Harvard Ave in Alston. Date of the incident, August 28th, 2023. Patron on patron assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 148, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning again, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With me this morning, Henry Wong, who's the manager of record and owner, and Max Ochoa, who is the manager on duty on the night in question. Thank you.
Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer McKinney with the Boston Police.
Sergeant McLaughlin with the Boston Police also.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Yep, you've already been, yep, thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
Sir, I have the 1-1. I can read it.
Thank you. You may please proceed.
About 01:21 a.m. on Saturday, August 19th, 2023, officers McKinney and Swanson in the Kilo 102 Alpha, while on a fixed code 19, responded to a fight at the Han located at 186 Harvard Ave, Brighton. While the officers were on a fixed code 19, the officers witnessed a crowd of about 8 to 12 people. The officers observed a fight between 4 females. The officers separated all parties. After the officers separated all parties, they were able to identify 2 of the main aggressors/suspects involved in the fight. Suspect 1 was identified as Alexandra O'Keefe, and suspect 2 was identified as Sophia Aldrich. After the parties were separated, the officers attempted to speak with Sophia Elridge. The suspect was observed to have a bump on her head. She also stated she had her contact knocked out from a separate physical altercation that took place with the same group of suspects inside the establishment. The suspect also complained that she could not hear out of one of her ears. While attempting to speak with the Elridge, she ignored the officers and attempted to approach the other suspect, O'Keefe. While screaming multiple times, the suspect began to also state that she has family that are police officers and she will be calling them. Officer McKinney spoke to the other suspect, Alexander O'Keefe. The suspect admitted to being involved in the fight. Also, while leaving in her Uber, she screamed, "That's why you got punched." The officers attempted to get Elridge medical attention from emergency medical services, but the suspect left the area prior to their arrival. Sergeant McLaughlin, the Kilo 913, arrived on scene and issued a licensed premise violation for a patron-on-patron assault, citation number 039894. This concludes the 1-1.
Is there, I just want to, on the record, it's no one's fault, but I don't have that report. I have a different report from, it looks like Detective McLaughlin.
You said at the beginning, they said August 28th. The one we were notified, myself, 19th. If you can reference what the 28th is, that might be a sound, a violation of noise. Is that what that one is?
Well, that's a little confusing because I'm looking at a report that is dated August 28th and the occurrence date is August 19th.
That is correct. The August 28th seems to have been the issuance of the license premise inspection notice.
So that the other question I had is that the license premise inspection notice where it suggests date and time of violation is blank. Date and time issued 8/19, but the write-up is not. It's just a little confusing. It's no one's fault. I'm just letting the board know that I don't have some of the information.
Neither one of us have that report. I can actually go see if I can pull it, if I can take a minute. I may have just done the report, might have forgotten to do the report that I issued the report later, but the license premise violation was issued that night. I was on scene when it happened.
Got it.
It may have been that and if you want to give me a minute, I'll go to a computer, try to pull that one up.
I've got that, Detective. It's right here, your signature on it, and it was dated August 19th. That's the notice. And just while we're on the topic, that document indicates that the management cooperated with the police. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if I could just go back to the previous testimony, Officer McInnes, is that it?
Yes, sir.
You arrived at the scene after, the people were outside of the establishment and there was some kind of a, pushing and shoving going on. Is that what occurred when you arrived?
So we were already on scene outside at that time. There was a lot of people around, and our view was obstructed because of the people moving around. And we saw approximately 4 individuals pushing and then throwing strikes back and forth.
Okay.
Sir.
All right. And you didn't observe any of those people inside the establishment? But they told you they had been inside, is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And some information that we've gathered would indicate that there was something that occurred a couple of doors down at the McDonald's. Did any of this occur at or near the McDonald's, to your knowledge?
It was outside of the Han, which is approximately 20 to 50 feet from the McDonald's, sir.
Okay, all right.
The incident happened across the street from the McDonald's. We had an incident at the McDonald's, completely separate on a separate night, but not that night. But it did happen across the street from the McDonald's, like Officer McKinney said, probably 40 or 50 feet away from the front door of Han.
Okay, all right. And was it, in terms of the cooperation with the police, was it Mr. Wong or Mr. Ochoa? Do either of you know?
I think it was Mr. Ochoa. I think I don't remember exactly that night. I will tell you this: that we have we had a habit of proactively having officers stationed outside the bars that had larger crowds on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. So officers were present when people were coming out. We didn't get called. We were there. And the people in the bar who we have a good relationship with said they had some video. They had the internal video. I told them to save it. I've never seen it, but I know they said they have a good system, and they said they cooperated. And you know, there was no issue with that. Just this fight was like literally probably less than a minute, Andrew.
I would say about that, yes, sir.
Okay. Right, and thank you, Detective. We do have that video and we'll provide it to the board. You'll see in the video that there's very little happening, if anything, inside. No hitting, striking, etc. But this group of women were asked to leave, and then apparently this incident occurred when they were being asked to leave outside. But we do have video, and we'll provide that to you today, to the board. May I just inquire of Mr. Long and Mr. Ochoa, are the officers completed with their testimony?
Yes.
No, that's not up to us, Henry. Mr. Green?
Yeah, anything further from, I believe that's all we have, but.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Long, you're the manager of record. Can you describe to the board what occurred on the night in question to the best of your knowledge?
Max Ochoa was there that night, so I think he would be a better person to answer
I
this
can't
question.
see him on the screen here. Is he present, Max? Are you with us?
Yep, I'm right here.
Okay, there he is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Max, you've been sworn. Just state your name and your occupation for the board.
Of course, yeah. My name is Max Ochoa. I'm the general manager at AHAN.
Okay. And were you present on the night in question?
I was.
Okay, can you tell the board what occurred?
Yeah, it was my bottle girl was at the table. She informed security that there was a couple girls like in a shouting match between each other. So when they got to the table, security asked them to calm down. They kept going. So then the person that was the head of the table asked them to get them out of like the section. When they did, the girls were like just going back and forth. So we just asked them to leave the establishment. They cooperated with us the whole way out. They were kind of chirping back and forth as they escorted, but there was no hair pulling, no punches, no pushing inside the club. Once they left the doors, that's, I guess, when everything else happened outside. But they cooperated fully to like our knowledge, and like there was no big issues like or fights or physical altercations at all inside of the establishment.
And then when the Boston Police Department arrived, did you interface with them? Did you talk to them?
Yeah, correct. I actually talked with Sergeant McLaughlin outside.
Okay. In your opinion, did you cooperate fully with them?
Fully, yep. He recommended me to find video and save the video, which I ended up talking to our IT person, and he has the video, saved it. I sent it to Henry. You have it, and yeah, we'll provide it to the board as well.
All right, thank you. And Henry, will you please reach out to me later, and I'll get you the email address to provide that video to the board today.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Wong?
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Green, members of the board.
Thank you. We'll see if there are any questions at this time, starting with Chairwoman Joyce.
I have no questions, Commissioner Curran and Commissioner Saxon.
I do not. Thank you.
None from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we will wait for submission of the requested video. And with that, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 6, Massachusetts Sports Service, Inc., doing business as TD Garden, located at 100 Legends Way. Date of the incident, November 7th, 2023. Assault and battery, patron on a police officer in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13D. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Morning, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, Commissioner Saxon and Curran, Stephen Miller, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller, and Hanley, representing the licensee.
Thank you, Attorney Miller. And who do you have with you on behalf of the licensee?
I have with me Eric Joins, who's the general manager, Eric Rivers, who's the director of security, and John Joins, who's the general manager of TD Garden.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I am Willem Schul.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with first-hand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify on this matter?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher will be reading the LPV into notice.
Thank you. And I see another member of the Boston Police Department. If you could please just identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Sergeant Samuel Shelter from the Boston Police Department, but I noticed that there are 4 violations against this licensed premise this morning. I'll be testifying on behalf of incident number 232094273.
Great, thank you. So we will call on you when we get there. Right now, we're concerned with the incident on November 7th, license premise inspection number 059292. Are there any other individuals with first-hand knowledge of this incident who wish to testify? Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
I can.
You can please proceed.
About 8:58 p.m. on Tuesday, November 11th, officers Petrozzillo and Shield and the Alpha 103 Frank responded to a call for assistance at TD Garden at 100 Legends Way. Upon arrival, officers spoke to Captain Hughes, the Sierra Bravo 2, who stated that a female, Francelas Torres, had assaulted him while escorting her off private property at TD Garden. Captain Hughes stated that a female and a male, Randy Rosario, had been reported by security staff to be intoxicated and no longer welcome at TD Garden. After multiple verbal warnings to vacate TD Garden property, Captain Hughes attempted to physically escort the female off the property. The female responded by shoving Captain Hughes with her left hand. While attempting to place her under arrest, the female resisted and was brought to the ground. While on her back, the female kicked twice in an upward motion, striking Captain Hughes' genitals. The female was wearing heels at the time. Captain Hughes placed the female under arrest. Responding officers Spellman and McCullough in the Alpha 421 Frank assisted Captain Hughes in placing the male under arrest after he refused to leave the property and continued to attempt to verbally intervene with the arrest of the female. The male was arrested due to being issued multiple verbal commands to leave the area and failing to do so. Both parties were transported to Area 1 District for booking by the Alpha 103 and the Alpha 432 Santana and Chen. The incident was captured on Boston Police FLIR cameras. Relevant video will be preserved.
Thank you, Sergeant Detective Gallagher. If you would like to proceed with your report.
Yes, on 11/9/2023 at 9:35 p.m., Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the licensed premise unit, responded at the TD Garden at 100 Legends Way to speak with staff about an incident that occurred on 11/7/23 at 8:58 p.m. During that incident, Boston Police Captain John Hughes was assaulted by a 20-year-old female patron of the TD Garden. Incident occurred during the Romeo Santos concert. 21-year-old Rhode Island native was being removed from the garden because she was disrupting other patrons. During the removal, she assaulted Captain Hughes. That incident was captured on BPD report 232090620. Suspect placed under arrest, transported to A1. BPD report stated that the suspect was intoxicated. During detectives' inspection, they met TD Garden manager John James and explained the reason for the visit in violation notice. As a result of that 11/7 incident, Sergeant Gallagher issued a license premise inspection 059292 to the TD Garden for assault and battery, patron on police officer. Mr. James signed for and accepted the notice. Those are the facts.
Thank you. Attorney Miller, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Thank you, Attorney Green. Attorney Shield, did the staff cooperate with you? Officer Shield, did the staff, I'm sorry, did the staff cooperate with you?
Yes.
In this instance, this patron wasn't allowed admittance to TD Garden, isn't that correct?
I believe that they were in TD Garden. They were asked to leave by security.
Okay, well, we'll have Mr. Jones on that. They in fact were stopped on entry to TD Garden, and they were told to leave the premises, and that's where Captain Hughes became involved.
Gotcha.
But you have no knowledge of that, is that
No,
correct? When you got there, they were Captain Hughes was
Yeah.
involved in the issue with these two. So I have no further questions. John, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Could you identify yourself to the board, please?
Yes, I'm John Joins, Director of Security, TD Garden.
And you were there that evening?
I was, yes.
And is in fact this particular female and her companion, particularly the female, was stopped upon entering TD Garden?
That's correct. That is a fact. They were stopped in our level 2 turnstile area and never scanned their tickets and were not permitted entry.
And she was denied entry, and that's when issues occurred. So you turned it over to the police because she wouldn't leave the premises. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I have no further questions. I have nothing else to add to this, Attorney Green.
Thank you, Attorney Miller. See if there are any questions from the board. Chairwoman Joyce?
So just confirming for the record, your testimony is that this person was never in TD Garden and was stopped on entry.
Stopped on entry, her ticket wasn't scanned. We have a policy, for those of you who have been to the garden, there, besides the people who are scanning tickets or whatever, there's also police there, detailed police officers and alcohol compliance officers that do the best they can to judge the condition of potential entrance. And this was a person that they felt was already intoxicated and denied entry.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
I have no questions. Thank you.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement. Item number 7, which concerns the same licensee, Massachusetts Sports Service, Inc., doing business as TD Garden at 100 Legends Way. Date of this incident, November 19th, 2023. Assault and battery on police with injuries on premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13D. Attorney Miller, do you have the same witnesses for this item as the previous?
Yes, Attorney Green, thank you.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Samuel Shelter.
Thank you, Sergeant. And are there any individuals, additional individuals with firsthand knowledge of this incident who wish to testify?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher can be at the LPV and to notice also there's a report here from Lieutenant Detective Mark Assad. I'm not sure if the detective is here, but I can read that in as well, necessary.
Thank you very much. You have all been sworn in. So with that, Sergeant Stelter, if you could please proceed with the police report.
All right, good morning. Can everybody hear me well?
We can.
Okay, very good. On November 19th, 2023, Sergeant Shelter was performing a public safety overtime at the LL Cool J concert being held at the TD Garden, which is a licensed premise located at 100 Legends Way, Boston, Mass. At approximately 22:50 hours, Sergeant Shelter was standing at his assigned post on the 4th floor by the bar area. His attention was brought to two males who were clearly overserved under the influence of alcohol. Suspect number 1, later identified as Patrick Anthony Canova, was seated in a chair exhibiting intoxication by his head being tilted, swaying side to side, and hand gestures indicating ability to communicate. Suspect number 2, later identified as Joseph Tito, was standing directly in front and over suspect Canova. Suspect Tito was holding an alcoholic beverage and appeared to be unsteady on his feet and pleading with Canova for an unknown reason. At this point, Sergeant Shelter spoke directly with a security guard who was monitoring the two suspects from a few feet away. The security guard stated that he was watching the two suspects because they appeared intoxicated and was giving them a few minutes to leave. At this point, Sergeant Shelter approached the two suspects to investigate further. Sergeant Shelter engaged the two suspects in a brief conversation to assess how intoxicated the two suspects were and see if they required medical attention or if they could simply be escorted out of the building. Sergeant Shelter began his conversation with the two suspects with, "Hey, guys, how's it going?" Suspect Canova had serious difficulty speaking to it due to intoxication and can only speak gibberish. Sergeant Silta then attempted to speak with suspect Tito, who was stated in a slurred manner that he and Canova were leaving. Due to the clear fact that both suspects were intoxicated, Sergeant Silta told both suspects that they would be escorted out of the premises. It should be noted that it was the intent of Sergeant Silta to continually assess the mental and physical state of both suspects while walking to the elevator in the event that they require medical intervention. Suspect Tito was still holding a large plastic cup filled with a mixed drink. Sergeant Silta told Tito that he had enough to drink and to discard the drink into the trash. Suspect Tito, instead of throwing the drink away, brought the drink to his mouth and began ingesting the drink in a rushed, gulping manner. Sergeant Silta stated to Tito, "Okay, that's enough. You need to leave, sir." Sergeant Silta then placed his hand on the upper left arm of Tito and began guiding him down the corridor towards the elevator. Suspect Tito then attempted to pull out of Sergeant Silta's grasp and stated, "Get your hands off me." Sergeant Silta retained his grip on Tito and stated, "I'm escorting you out because you were drunk." Suspect Tito at this point then pulled his left arm away from Sergeant Silta and raised his elbow and struck Sergeant Silta in the face, the right side of his jaw. Sergeant Silta placed the suspect under arrest when suspect Canova intervened and pushed Sergeant Silta. Sergeant Silta then stated, "Get away from me, don't interfere." Suspect Canova then began stepping towards Sergeant Silta in a menacing manner. Sergeant Silta, who was stunned from a direct elbow shot to the face and fearing further unlawful attack from Canova, grabbed Canova to place him in handcuffs and arrest the aforementioned assault and battery and interference. Suspect Canova put up a vigorous resistance and refused to comply with handcuffing. Sergeant Silta was required to take the suspect to the floor to immobilize him and place handcuffs on him. Once on the floor, suspect Canova continued to resist, refusing to place his hands behind his back. After a prolonged struggle, Sergeant Silta, with the assistance of another police officer, was able to place handcuffs on him. It was at this point that Sergeant Silta looked over his right shoulder and could see suspect Tito standing a few feet away. Sergeant Silta got up from the floor and proceeded to re-engage suspect Tito to arrest him as well. Sergeant Silta grabbed suspect Tito by the left arm once again and attempted to place the suspect's arm behind his back to place handcuffs on him. Suspect Tito again vigorously resisted Sergeant Silta's attempts to place him under arrest by pulling away and running. Sergeant Silta then pushed the suspect up against a support pillar in an attempt to restrict his movements. Lieutenant Detective Assad, who was also on duty at the TD Garden, came to assist Sergeant Silta. Lieutenant Detective Assad witnessed the suspect attempt to strike Sergeant Silta with a closed fist and assisted Sergeant Silta to take the suspect to the floor. While in the process of taking the suspect to the floor, the suspect connected a punch to Sergeant Silta's face, left cheek. Both officers struggled to place the suspect under arrest and required the assistance of numerous other officers on detail to subdue the suspect. It should be noted that Sergeant Silta overextended his right ankle and foot during this struggle. His left knee struck the concrete floor, kneecap down during this arrest, in addition to the 2 strikes to his face. Sergeant Silta felt immediate pain and discomfort to both sides of his face due to the 2 strikes sustained from the suspects. He experienced redness and bruising to his face, which was photographed by Sergeant Downey at District 1. Sergeant Silta also experienced pain to his right foot from being overextended during the struggle. Sergeant Silta also sustained pain to his left knee due to it striking the concrete floor during the struggle. Sergeant Silta was assessed by Boston Ambulance A1 EMTs Smith and Lee and was advised to apply ice and take ibuprofen for pain for his injuries. Both suspects were successfully apprehended at this point and transported to District 1, where they were booked in the usual manner. Suspect number 1, Canova, was charged with the following: assault and battery on a police officer with injuries, disorderly person, and resisting arrest, interfering with a police officer. Suspect number 2, Tito, was charged with the following: assault and battery on a police officer, resisting arrest, disorderly person. And later on, the licensed premise unit responded to investigate. Those are the facts.
Thank you, Sergeant. Sergeant Detective Gallagher, I believe you had additional.
Yeah, I'll be reading from a report that was written by Lieutenant Detective Mark Assad at about 10:50 p.m. on Sunday, 11/19/23. Lieutenant Assad, while working the LL Cool J concert at TD Garden, 100 Legends Way, did observe Sergeant Silta in a struggle with suspects Patrick Canova and Joseph Tito. While attempting to escort Tito out of the premise, Sergeant Silta was elbowed in the face by Tito. Suspect Canova then assaulted Sergeant Silta in an attempt to intervene in the arrest of Tito. After successfully placing Canova under arrest, Sergeant Silta then attempted to arrest suspect Tito. Tito began to violently resist. Lieutenant Assad immediately assisted Silta, who was upright and holding the suspect against a pillar. The suspect then struck Sergeant Silta in the face with a closed fist. Tito was brought to the ground by Sergeant Silta and Lieutenant Assad. While bringing the suspect to the ground, Detective Assad immediately felt a pop in his right shoulder. Sharp pain immediately followed the pop. Suspect Tito was successfully placed in handcuffs after a struggle on the ground. Lieutenant Assad declined medical attention and will continue working. He will monitor this injury and consult with his primary care physician. That's Lieutenant Detective Mark Assad's. The last report in line is mine. It's 11/28/2023. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the licensed premise unit, responded to TD Garden, 100 Legends Way, to speak to staff about an incident that occurred during the LL Cool J concert on 11/19/23. During the concert, BPD officers Lieutenant Assad and Sergeant Silta were assaulted by intoxicated patrons that were being removed from the TD Garden for being intoxicated. During the course of the arrest, both officers were assaulted, with Lieutenant Detective Assad experiencing pain with a popping sound in his shoulder. Sergeant Silta also experienced facial bruising and ankle pain. Two suspects were placed under arrest and transported to A1. BPD report is 232094438 and 232094273. During the interaction on the 24th, detectives spoke with Mr. John Joynes, who was aware of the incident. Mr. Joynes stated TD Garden was working on securing video for that incident. That is that report right there, sir.
Thank you, Sergeant Detective. Attorney Miller, would you like to address this incident?
Yes, Sergeant Silta, did the TD Garden staff cooperate with you during this incident?
Good question. Immediately following the incident, after I apprehended both suspects, I engaged conversation with the alcohol compliance staff, which I believe are contract employees to the TD Garden, and I asked for them to bring the license down because we were going to issue a license premise violation. The alcohol compliance officer had no idea what I was talking about, and at that point, I waited an additional 20 minutes because I asked to have his boss come down and speak with me personally, and I was going to have the licensed premise unit respond immediately once I spoke with that individual. Nobody came and spoke with me. Nobody had any idea what I was talking about when I asked for the licensed premise manager to come down or to view the license itself. At that point, I went back to District A1 to book both prisoners, and I had another supervisor contact the licensed premise unit for them to further investigate.
So, Sergeant, in your report, it says you observed these two individuals, and it said you spoke with a security guard who was monitoring the two suspects?
That's correct.
And what was your conversation with the security guard that was monitoring the suspects?
Let me just refer back to my police report here. Sergeant Silta spoke with a security guard who was monitoring the two suspects from a few feet away. The security guard stated that he was watching the two suspects because they appeared intoxicated and was giving them a few minutes to leave. At that point, I approached the two suspects to investigate further.
So you determined that this you would take over this situation based on your observations?
I did, because it should be put in the record that it was 10 minutes to 11. So at that point, the venue was going to break, And I didn't want these two individuals who appeared to be heavily intoxicated to interact with a large crowd that was attempting to exit the building. I wanted to make sure that these two individuals were escorted out on the elevator because they appeared to be unsteady on their feet. And I wanted to make sure that they would be escorted off the premise without further incident.
Sergeant, you didn't see them at any time be served alcohol? Well, did you?
No.
Thank you, Sergeant. I appreciate your testimony. John, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
John, were you there that evening?
I was not.
You were not? Was Eric there? Eric, are you there?
I am. I was not there that evening.
So are either one of you aware of the fact that Sergeant Silta was requesting for a manager to view the license and talk about the incident? I'm sorry?
I was not made aware.
Was made aware after the fact.
You were made aware after the fact?
Yes.
John, how many people were in attendance that evening?
I'd have to check my records, but I believe it was around 10,000.
Okay, we provided, I think you provided this, and we provided this to the board. This was the LL Cool J, sorry, showing my age, concert. So the attendance was 8,808.
That's correct.
Police detail was 16 police officers and 4 Boston Police canine officers.
Yes, that's correct.
Security officers, 84.
Correct.
Security supervisors, 15.
Correct.
Security event manager, 1.
Yes, that's correct.
And alcohol enforcement officers, 10.
Correct.
Also that night, there were 3 evictions.
Correct.
So on this, you heard the sergeant's testimony. He determined we had identified these 2, and he determined that it made most sense where it was getting late to get them out. Did we assist at any as much as we could with the sergeant and with the BPD?
Yes, to my knowledge.
So we also we did present video to the board of all 4 incidents, which the board can see. We did also present to the board our alcohol policies, our both the training and the service policy. And John, on a regular basis, do you have meetings with the staff to retrain everybody as far as alcohol service?
Yes.
And they're fully trained as far as not only the ID procedure, but also the service procedure, identifying intoxicated patrons?
Yes, that's correct.
So for us to determine in this particular instance, whether these people were served or whether someone else bought them drinks or whatever, our policy is a no cash policy. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So for us to determine, we'd have to find out their credit card numbers and try and determine if in fact they were used, and if in fact they were where they were used and what time they were used, to be able to determine if in fact they were served while intoxicated or overserved. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So we have no knowledge of how these people obtained any alcohol. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Eric, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, in the instance, you know, the sergeant made a determination which to have these people evicted and ejected, and he had certainly good reason, as in the previous one and in the next two, you'll know that our staff was had already identified these two as possibly being overserved. The sergeant made a determination, which, you know, with his years of experience and the fact that he's a sergeant in PPD, that it would be appropriate to have them evicted, and we did everything we could to assist.
Thank
I
you,
have
Mr.
nothing
Warren.
further.
We'll see if there are any questions from the board at this time. Chairwoman Joyce, any questions?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Carter or Commissioner Saxon?
Video wise, was there any kind of search to see where these two patrons came from immediately prior to them being observed by the sergeant?
So we've sent the video over to the board yesterday and trying to identify them and dig through, you know, over 8,000 people. We did do a search of the general alcohol services in that vicinity where the event occurred, but it was we were unable to determine anything, Commissioner.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Just to confirm, for the two managers who are here at this hearing, was there any conversation or internal reporting with the managers who were there that night and not here today?
Yes, that's correct. I spoke to my management team, TD Garden Management, as well as our event manager that was previously mentioned regarding
I also spoke with my manager on duty that night.
Thank you. Anything further from the board? Board will take this matter under advisement as well. Calling item number 8, which once again concerns the same licensee, Massachusetts Sports Service, Inc., doing business as TD Garden, 100 Legends Way. Date of this incident, November 8th, 2023, over service of alcohol in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Assault and battery on a police officer in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13D, and disorderly patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Attorney Miller, same witnesses once again?
Yes, Attorney Green. Thank you.
And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher can read it into record if the other officers aren't here. Officer Christopher Perry, I believe, and is the officer.
Thank you. I do not see him, so thank you, Sergeant Detective Gallagher. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of this incident who wish to testify this morning?
Is Sergeant Silt is still on the air? He's mentioned in the report as well.
Is Sergeant Silva still with us? I believe he hopped off. Okay.
Well,
thank you. Then with that, you have all been sworn in. And Sergeant Detective Gallagher, if you could please proceed with the police report.
yes, good morning. This report was written by Officer Christopher Perry on 9:48 p.m. Wednesday, 11/8/23. Officer Perry and Sergeant Silta, while working the detail at 100 Legends Way, TD Garden, were flagged down by TD Garden security for an unruly patron. Upon arrival, officers observed the suspect, Roderica Holmes, date of birth 9/12/96, standing on the west side stairwell of TD Garden. TD Garden security was attempting to remove suspect Holmes from the establishment, but she would not do so. The suspect was verbally aggressive with staff and officers as well, attempting to have her exit the TD Garden. Suspect was slurring her words and was unable to hold herself up properly from falling backwards or forwards. Officers then attempted to take the alcoholic drink out of suspect's hands so she could use the railing on the stairwell. Suspect pulled the drink away from officers and then continued to fall down the flight of stairs onto her chest. Per orders of the Yankee 912 Sergeant Silta, he requested Boston police officers on scene to place the suspect under arrest. While escorting the suspect out of TD Garden, she continued to be unsteady in her feet, verbally yelling down the staircase as the officers had to hold her from falling. Suspect was transported back to District A1, suspect to be processed and booked. On arrival, the suspect was upset and crying when placed in front of the booking desk. Booking officer, Officer Twining, told the suspect to take a seat so she could calm down before beginning the process. The suspect became belligerent with officers while attempting to place her into the holding cell. She spat her saliva into Officer Twining face and mouth. Officer Twining completed a Boston Police Department exposure form. Enrica Holmes was arrested and charged with the following: Mass General Law, Chapter 272, Section 53, disorderly conduct, yelling, verbally falling down staircase. Mass General Law 265, 13D, assault and battery on a police officer, spitting on officer's face. That is Officer Perry's report. I followed up with Detective Hernandez with a licensing violation on 11/9/2023 at about 9:45 p.m. Sergeant Gallagher, Detective Hernandez, assigned to the licensed premise unit, responded to Boston Garden, 100 Legends Way, to speak to staff regarding the incident that occurred on the evening before at 8:48 p.m. during the Red Wave concert. During the concert, officers Sergeant Silter and Perry responded for the call of an unruly patron. Responding officers found garden staff trying to remove an unruly female patron. Officers found the unruly patron to be intoxicated with slurred speech and unsteady on her feet. Patron observed yelling and screaming at staff and police officers, causing others to take note. Officers placed unruly patron under arrest for disorderly conduct and transported to A1. During booking process, suspect assaulted 2 BPD officers. That incident was documented on Boston Police Incident Report 232-0858 by Officer Perry. Detectives informed Mr. James about this second incident and informed him that they would be issuing a licensed premise violation for over service of alcohol. Disorderly patron violation notice 059293 was issued to and accepted by Mr. John James. That is all the reports, sir.
Thank you, Sergeant Detective Gallagher. Attorney Miller, would you like to address this incident?
Sergeant, you have no personal knowledge of this, correct?
No, sir, I don't.
And you note for the licensed premise inspection notice that it says that the owner management cooperated with police?
Yes, sir, they did.
Thank you, Sergeant. The Joins, you're still there? Yes, I see you.
Yes, sir.
So on this evening, it was something called Rod Wave?
Correct.
As that the, and for the record, in 2023, the garden had 169 major events. Is that correct? And by major events, talking about concerts and athletics and hockey and basketball and college sports, et cetera, high school sports. Is that correct? 169 major events in 2023?
Correct.
And the averaging out all those 169 events, it averages to about 15,000 patrons per event.
Correct.
Which gives you approximately 2,535,000 visitors to the garden in 2023.
Yes, correct.
On this particular night, the attendance was just under 11,000. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And Boston Police detail officers of 20, correct?
Yes.
And Boston Police K9 officers of 4?
Correct.
And in this night, I noticed from previous reports, and these reports, by the way, Madam Chair and Commissioners, all 4 reports of all these incidents were provided yesterday, along with the video and our alcohol policies to the board. So on this particular report, we had, besides the police officer, we had 92 security officers, 15 security supervisors, 1 security event manager, 10 alcohol enforcement on duty. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I noticed on this report, we had more security officers and security supervisors and actually more Boston Police detail than we did in some of the previous events. Was that by design?
No, our staffing levels vary depending on the event and rate of
Was that
return.
based on an anticipated number of people?
Yes, that's
attending? Okay. And in this instance, our security staff attempted to deal with this person and asked for assistance. We identified the person and we asked the police for assistance. Is that correct?
Yes, to my knowledge, based on the report.
Yeah. And once again, our security staff attempts to cooperate as much as we can with the Boston Police. Obviously, they're there to assist us, but when we ask for assistance, we try to assist them as best we can. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
As far as on that night with the evictions, based on the number of events and the number of people, would you say 80 to 90% of the evictions are based on alcohol compliance issues?
Yes.
And the remainder just either altercations or possibly disorderly persons? The remaining
Correct.
10 to 20%.
Very different issues, yes.
Most of the evictions you have, do they involve the police or do we handle them ourselves?
No, we handle them ourselves.
And I believe you mentioned to Attorney Tom Miller yesterday that since December 23, you've increased the alcohol compliance staff for all events at the Garden. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe it was actually a couple months before that, but yes.
Oh, since before that, okay.
Yeah.
So I have no further questions of either Mr. Rivers or Mr. Joins. Once again, we identified the individual and attempted to peacefully remove that person, and it didn't work, so we asked assistance of the BPD, and BPD responded. Unfortunately, some of these people this unfortunately this person was unreached, would not deal with the police, with our people or the police. We attempted to, since I think she was in our seats when our people got involved in this, and it was brought to our attention by other patrons that she was being disorderly and abusive. So our staff got involved with it. In response to Commissioner Curran's possible question, we attempted to, this was even more difficult because she was seated in one of the sections of the garden, attempted to determine if we served her and what was her condition. if in fact service, but we could not identify her. But once again, our staff responded to it and took the appropriate action, and fortunately, the reason that we have 24 or 25 police officers there is to assist us in cases like this. I have nothing further. We can answer some questions from the board.
Thank you, Attorney Miller. Chairwoman Joyce?
Thank you, Attorney. I'm not sure who to direct my question to, but can someone describe for me how often you train your staff to look for signs of intoxication and overservice, the people who are actually serving the alcohol?
I can answer that. We train our staff every season prior to the season. We also individually and in small groups throughout the season retrain staff and for specific things, whether it be the size of the amount of alcohol they're pouring, not overservice, but like serve safe training, etc. All staff are also required to take a serve safe course, which is they take online and are required to have that certification in order to serve alcohol. That happens continuously as their certificates expire. They must retake the course.
And is that like an annual, is that course good for a year or?
It's good for 3 years,
Okay.
but our refresher training is largely based on that course.
If you train every year, that's correct, and
Yes.
retrain during the year, is that correct?
Correct.
I thought you said you just train at the beginning of the year and then they're responsible for doing the training on their own after that.
The ServSafe certification is for 3 years. It's a formal course that requires a certification. We train at the beginning of each season.
Okay.
A refresher training, and then during the season, we also do multiple other smaller trainings, whether individually or in small groups.
So before the Salt Licks, you do a training and then, so how many times a year? Are you doing it 4 times a year every season?
I guess officially it would be 2. The small groups and the individuals are in isolated cases.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Are you talking about the TD Garden season or this, 4 times a year is the calendar season?
It would be the start of the hockey and basketball season.
Okay.
And then the other ones would be for special circumstances, whether or not sometimes we hand out staff notes, so there's constant reminders on checking IDs, looking for signs of intoxication, who to report any instances to, etc.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
Just a question as far as, is there any way to record names along with credit card transaction, or is that not possible?
It's not 100% consistent. Some credit cards don't provide that, but if I have a credit card number, I can look up and see the purchase. There may or may not be a name associated with that card.
And if you only have a name, is there any way for you, is there any, record of that? And is there any way for you to search that in that manner?
Yes, I can search. If I have a name, yes, I can search it, but it may or may not come up. It'll only come up if it's provided in the system, in our POS system.
And was this person's name searched in this instance?
It was not.
Yeah,
I did not search it.
Similar to Commissioner Curran, I certainly appreciate that there are thousands of people there, and of course tracking is going to be hard, but I do encourage you guys to continue to find ways of keeping track of who's drinking what, simply because there are, there's a really high risk of pass-offs and people being overserved.
If I, just one other point I'd like to make is one of the other things they do, Commissioner Joyce and Commissioner Saxon and Curran, is they use a spotting service, a secret shopper, to go around and check on the staff that's pouring alcohol and checking IDs, and which gives them information to do retraining or I guess to some degree award people that are doing everything properly, but reward people. But other than that, they're use the secret shopper service on a regular basis to check all the staff that's serving alcohol. That's just one other added thing they're doing to try and make sure, even though 2.5 million people are walking through the door, any over service is something that they make very clear in their alcohol training policy is unacceptable.
Commissioners, if I may add as well, our alcohol compliance team, which there was 10 on per event, their only function is to walk the concourses and look for signs of intoxication, fake IDs, underage drinkers, things like that. So just wanted to point that out, that they're constantly moving throughout those areas and monitoring that.
Thank you for that. Any further questions from the board on this matter? Thank you. We'll take this under advisement as well. And move on to the final incident regarding this licensee, item number 9, Massachusetts Sports Service, Inc., doing business as TD Garden, 100 Legends Way. Date of this incident, December 3rd, 2023, assault and battery, patron on police officer ×2, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13D. Attorney Miller is checking one more time. Same witnesses for this incident as well. Correct.
Thank you.
Who's present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Detective Gallagher can read it into record if Officer Kennedy is not here.
It appears he is not, so thank you, Sergeant Detective Gallagher. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? You have all been sworn in, so Sergeant Detective Gallagher, if you could please proceed.
Yes, at about 10 p.m. on Saturday, December 3rd, 2023, Officer Kennedy, assigned to the TD Garden detail for the Doja Cat concert at 100 Legend Way, made an on-site arrest for an A and B on a police officer. Assisting officers were POs H. Merriman, PO B. Bailey, and PO Q. Nguyen. While assigned to section seating area 306 balcony seating of the TD Garden, officers were flagged over by TD Garden alcohol compliance officer T. Weeks, who requested assistance with a guest, later identified as Ashland Leon, refusing to leave the building. Officer Bailey approached Leon and requested Leon to leave the building on behalf of TD Garden's alcohol compliance officer and TD Garden security officer Jay Sabel, manager. Leon refused to leave after being asked multiple times. Bailey requested additional officers to respond and assist. Leon then began to point her fingers in Officer Bailey's face. Officer asked Leon to step back, to which she refused. Officer then asked Leon once again to leave the building, to which again she refused. Officers then assisted Leon to assist the area stairwell by grabbing her arms and simultaneously escorting Leon out of the TD Garden. At this time, Leon began to resist officers by kicking her legs out and screaming. Leon struck officers PO D. Kennedy and PO Miriam multiple times with her legs. At this time, officers Kennedy placed her into handcuffs with the assistance and then began by PO Miriam, Bailey, and Nguyen. Officers then proceeded to bring Leon out of the garden, and Leon continued to resist officers. As officers were bringing Leon outside in front of TD Garden, Leon began to spit on officers Miriam multiple times. Officers got Leon into a marked Boston police vehicle without further incident. Leon was transported to A1 by the Alpha 435 PO Cooper. While at District 1, Leon continued to resist officers by turning her body and kicking her legs. Leon refused to comply with officers' commands. Leon then stamped on PO Zhao's foot in the booking area. Officers were able to place leg shackles to prevent further entries to Leon or any assisting officers. Leon refused to be booked or provide any information. Officers were able to locate 2 Massachusetts live's licenses in her handbag. License number 1 had the name of Ashley Leon with date of birth of September 25th, 2001. The second license had the name of Ashley Leon with date of birth of September 25th, 2003. A CGIS inquiry of both licenses showed that the license 1 was not listed in the CGIS database as a license or ID card. License number 2 results showed the license was inactive in the database to Leon. License number 1 was seized and logged into District A1 property room. Leon was charged with the following 3 counts: assault and battery on a police officer, 1 count of assault and battery, another count of disturbing the peace, another count of liquor ID card license false misuse, and number 4, forgery of a document. Upon completing this report, Leon refused to be booked, processed by multiple Boston police officers and supervisors. That is the extent of P.O. Kennedy's report. The last one is mine. It do not seem to have it. I just have the last page on it. But basically, myself and Detective Hernandez responded to TD Garden to speak to them about this incident, and we did issue a license premise violation for the assault and battery on the police officers. And that's it.
Thank you, Sergeant Detective Gallagher. Attorney Miller, would you like to address this alleged incident?
Gallagher, once again, you have no personal knowledge of this incident.
That's correct, sir.
And the violation report does list that the staff manager licensee cooperated with police.
Yes,
that
sir, he
correct?
did.
Thank
That's
you.
correct, sir, he did.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
So on this particular instance, we had just under 13,000 people. Why don't you, John, I'm sorry, why don't you come on so you can verify this? Okay. On this particular night, we had 12,800 people. We had 18 police detail, 4 K9 police officers, Boston Police, 85 security, 15 security supervisors, security event managers, and alcohol enforcement officers of 10. Is that correct, John?
Yes, that's correct.
And in this instance, John, once again, it was one of our people responding to customers saying that this young woman was causing a scene, and that we attempted to peacefully ask her to leave the premises, and she did not do that and became unruly, so we asked the assistance of the police. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have any information? She was seated, so we have no idea, but do you have any information on whether she was served that night?
I do not.
And she had a phony ID, according to, we don't know if she tried to use that at the garden or not. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I have nothing further. Eric, is there anything you want to add?
No, there's not.
You kind of got a free pass on this one, Eric. Once again, Madam Chair, Commissioners Curran and Saxon, we've sent you our alcohol service policy. You heard about the training. You've heard that we've actually increased our alcohol compliance staff, but in that we go to great lengths to try and avoid any of these instances. Based on the volume of people that go through there, the instances are very low, but if you review our alcohol policy, any instances that makes it a bad situation for the millions of people that go through the garden is not acceptable. And we continue to try and come up with ways to stop these from occurring. but, and as both John said, we've increased our alcohol compliance staff that does, as he spoke earlier, move around the garden, all areas of the garden, trying to intercept any of these types of issues. So I have nothing further, and John and Eric are here to answer any of your questions if the board has any more.
Thank you, Attorney Miller. We'll turn to the board to see if there are any questions. Chairwoman Joyce.
Yes, so I have a question for the garden staff. Given that we have 4 incidents today on our agenda, do you have plans to retrain your staff?
We can certainly increase the number of times we train our staff just to continually enforce that.
Okay, based on the ones that we have before us today. So when was the last time that you did a formal training of your staff?
September.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon?
No questions from me on this one. Thank you.
None for me, thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you. And calling item number 10, Intercontinental Hotels Group Resources, Inc., located at 500 Atlantic Ave, date of the incident, November 12th, 2023, hindering or delaying a police investigation of a licensed premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.10 A and B. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, John Iada, McDermott, Quilty, Miller, and Hanley, for the licensee. Joining me is Assistant Director of Security, Raymond Williams, Security Officer, Robert Busher, and the General Manager of Record, Bradford Rice, who I believe are all in one screen under the Intercontinental Boston marker.
Thank you. Yes, I can see 3 individuals on that screen. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Santana.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Detective Hernandez, I'll be reading the LPV report.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Officer Santana, you may please proceed.
About 9:40 p.m. on November 12th, 2023, Officer Beatrice and Santana responded to a radio call for a fight on Prince and Salem Street, Boston. Dispatchers informed officers of a caller stating a male was physically hitting a female, male and female both getting into an Uber, male kicking female and yelling. Dispatcher also informed officers of a description of the male and how he left in the Uber. Dispatch later informed officers of callers stating the female being very intoxicated. Upon arrival, officers were approached by witnesses Natalie Castle and her husband Andy Castle, who stated they saw the victim getting kicked in an unknown area by the suspect. The victim stated that the suspect name was Keith Albert with a date of birth of 3/5/1969. Witness Jacob Bukow also stated witnesses got the victim out the Uber and they were attempting to leave in. Witness Cindy Skillen and Kayla White were able to provide video footage of the victim exiting the Uber. Officers spoke to the victim, were able to identify her and request EMS for further evaluation. Victim was asked where did she have pain and motioned towards the back of her legs. Later on, the victim stated her and the suspect were staying at the Intercontinental Boston Hotel. Officers were able to find the key to her room and provided it for assisting officers Ortiz, Arias, and Santos in the Alpha 101 Frank, who were going to the Intercontinental Hotel. Officers were able to contact the hotel security director and were denied access for further information on the room that they were staying in. Officers in the Alpha 101 Frank were not able to approach the suspect. EMS transported the patient to Mass General Hospital for further evaluation. Officers informed Mass General Hospital security of the suspect's name and were informed to contact the police if he tries to visit the victim. Officers informed the Alpha 910 of the incident. That'll be all.
Thank you. And Detective Hernandez, you have your report as well.
Looks like there's also going to be a supplemental here. I'll read that. I don't think, Matthew O'Neill wrote this at about 2 a.m., 11/13/2023. Officer O'Neill and Irvin responded to a radio call for a domestic violence intimate partner at 510 Atlantic Avenue, room 851, the Intercontinental Hotel, Boston. Officers Mejia and Roca, Bowman, Beaton assisted. On arrival, officers were met by hotel security who was with the suspect, Keith Albert. Officers Irvin read Albert his Miranda warnings, to which he stated he understood, without allowing the officer to completely finish. Albert stated to officers Irvin, Bowman, and Beaton and his girlfriend victim, Corey Dietz, had fallen down the stairs at about earlier in the night and was transported to the hospital. After Dietz was discharged, she returned to the hotel, where the two got into a verbal dispute, but nothing physical occurred. Simultaneously, officers O'Neill, Mejia, and Rocca made their way to room 851 to speak with Dietz. Dietz was speaking with night security officer Robert Busher at the threshold of room 851 when officers arrived. Officer O'Neill requested a formal identification for Dietz and immediately observed her to be walking with a limp favoring her right leg. Dietz, when asked about an injury, stated she had fallen down the stairs and had returned from the hospital earlier in that evening, approximately 1 a.m. Inside the hotel room, officers of red and brown stains sputtered on the sheets of the bed, which officers thought through their training experience believed to be blood. Dietz stated that she was unaware of how the blood got there, and officers could not observe any open wounds, lacerations to Dietz's body. Dietz stated that nothing physical occurred in the room and that the argument was verbal in nature. Dietz made an excited utterance saying Albert did kick her earlier in the night. See original report. Dietz asked Officer Mejia if she could speak to her in private, to which she agreed. Dietz began to remove the top layer of her outfit, exposing multiple bruises located on her chest, back, and arms. Dietz also mentioned previous physical assaults from Albert that occurred in their home state of North Carolina and showed Officer Mejia a photo of past injuries. Dietz then showed officers her right leg and ankle, which was bruised, and again stated Albert kicked her in this location. Officer Mejia advised Dietz of her rights under 209A and provided her an abuse law card in hand. Based on Dietz's statement, as well as officers' observations of her injuries, Albert was placed in arrest and will be charged in Boston Municipal Court with the following: assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, assault on a family member. During the booking process at District A1, Albert stated to officers that he did kick Dietz so that she would get up, and proceeded to demonstrate to officers the kicking motion used. Photos of the victim's injuries saved on officers' department phone. After that report, and then I'm going to read from the report which I wrote on Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. Sergeant Detective Bill Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the BPD license premise unit, responded to the Intercontinental Hotel. Detectives went there to speak to staff regarding assault and battery, dangerous weapon, assault on a household member incident that had occurred on November 13th. See report 232-092-093. Detectives spoke to the person in charge, Mr. James Boucher, who confirmed that he was aware of the incident. Detectives informed Mr. Boucher that since a report stated that the hotel staff refused to provide information at the time of the incident, the establishment was being issued a license premise violation. As a result of the incident, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued a license premise inspection notice 059296 for hindering or delaying a police investigation of a licensed premise. Mass General Law, Chapter 138, 63A, and Board Rules 1.10 A and B. Mr. Boucher signed for an accepted notice. That's all.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Attorney Aida, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, thank you, Attorney Green. Detective Hernandez, you and Detective Sergeant Gallagher were on the premises on November 14th, and that was just to serve the violation notice. Is that correct?
Correct.
And did the staff and management cooperate with you at that time?
Yes.
And the incident that this charge refers to, am I correct in saying that is referring to when Officers Santos and Arias arrived at the hotel two nights ago?
The reason we were there because of the police reports that were written the prior day. Yes, sir.
And you don't have any personal knowledge of the events that transpired on November 12th at the hotel, correct?
No, sorry, I do not. I was not there.
And you see Sergeant Detective Gallagher, I would assume the same to you, sir. You don't have any firsthand knowledge of the events on November 12th?
That's correct, sir.
Right. I don't have any further questions of the detectives or of Officer Santos. With me, I have the Assistant Director of Security, Raymond Williams. He has firsthand knowledge on the night of November 12th when officers Arias and Santos arrived to the Intercontinental. It's his testimony that they were questioning him about a particular guest, asking whether that individual was staying, if they could go up to that individual's room. At that time, Mr. Williams, as he is trained to do, without a warrant or some type of subpoena from the court, he informed the officers that he would not be able to give that type of private information to the officers. He was courteous to them, and the officers soon left the hotel. As I understand, there was, after this incident, in between the two, these individuals, both the alleged assailant and the victim, did return to the hotel. This was in the early morning of the 13th, November 13th. It was at that time, and that's when the security officer, Mr. Busher, got involved. He received a report from one of his staff that there was a verbal argument or altercation going on in one of the rooms. When they responded, Mr. Busher called 911 and reported this. It's my understanding that there was no physical altercation at that point, but that the parties were separated, and that the staff cooperated with the police who were on scene at that time. And the perpetrator, the assailant, was arrested at that point based on the earlier assault that had occurred in the North End. Mr. Rice is here. He's the general manager as well, and he could testify to the policies in place with the staff and the management. Anytime there's any request for personal information from the guests, he and the staff are informed that unless there's a warrant or a subpoena issued, they are not to provide that information. This is in compliance with the Fourth Amendment rights. All hotel guests are afforded that right. The officers did not show any exigent circumstances to issue that without a warrant. And clearly, what we have here is the staff did everything in their power and their rights to protect the rights of the guests. Had they provided that, they would have been in violation of the Fourth Amendment. So what we have here is just they cooperate as they are and as they are permitted by law. Otherwise, they'd be in violation of the guests' constitutionally protected rights. Those three individuals are here from the hotel if you have any specific questions about each of those nights.
Thank you, Attorney Aida. We will see if there are any questions. Chairwoman Joyce.
I actually have a question for Officer Santana. You were there that night, right?
Oh, Officer Santana, you're currently on mute. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Sorry about that. Yes, I was.
Were you there? Were you the one that talked to the hotel security?
No, my partner called directly to the hotel, and the Alpha 101 was the one who arrived to the hotel.
Okay, so were you involved at all in the conversation with the security director about trying to get access to the room?
I wasn't, no.
Okay. So someone from security, I'm curious what you were told about the incident that happened around 10 o'clock that night, 9:40, according to the police report. I understand constitutional rights and this and that, but I want to know what information you were presented with at the time.
It's most likely that would be you. You were at the front desk, having met Officer Santos and Arias, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So they came to the front desk and they inquired if we have a Keith Albert in house. At the time, we wasn't aware because we didn't get a chance to check our records to see if he was present at the hotel. So I informed him that we would look into it, but in order for us to provide any information to him, we would need a warrant or subpoena. That's a policy that we have in-house. After I relayed this information to both officers, they just departed the hotel. They didn't have any further questions or any other concerns.
So you only were asked if Mr. Keith Albert was staying at your hotel?
Yes, and at the
Did
time.
you
we
give you
didn't-
any other details?
No, at the time, we didn't even get to check our records to see if he was actually in-house.
Okay, they just asked you that name. They didn't provide you any other details about what happened and why they were asking you?
No, at the time, they just asked us if he was in-house because he was involved in an incident that occurred off property.
Oh, they did tell you
then-
about the incident off property?
Yes, they mentioned that he was involved in an incident that occurred off property.
Did they describe the incident that happened off property?
They never go in details. They never give us the details.
Okay. And at that time, you never got the person's name?
No,
But no, they did ask you about a Keith
they
Albert.
did ask us for the name, but.
So then what happens after that? When the police leave, do you take that person's name and double check on your own to see if they are staying at your hotel?
Yes,
And you did?
yes.
Okay, I'm just asking, is there more to it, or you just did that?
No, once they asked if he was staying at the hotel, and as I said, we didn't get a chance to check the records because everything unfolds so quickly. But after they left, after I informed them that in order for us to provide the information to them, we need a warrant or a subpoena. The officer, they just left after that. They didn't pursue anything further. They didn't ask any other questions or anything.
Okay, in all instances, you would need a warrant or subpoena. So if the police came to you and said, we believe that a man is staying here, assaulted someone, you would say, I need I need a court order?
Yes, that's a procedure that we have in-house.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Bradford Rice could testify as well as the policies, but I think it's clear that, clearly Mr. Williams is not an attorney. However, that being said, there has to be proof that is a crime or something being committed or in the process of being committed at that premises. So clearly, yeah, I don't think we have any testimony to that effect.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
Just to add on, when you were presented with the information with his name, were you given the room number that he was believed to be staying in as well?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, and then I think my question will probably be for Attorney Ayeda. I'm assuming there's written policies on this type of interaction with the police for the hotel, is that correct?
I can check with Mr. Rice, he's the general manager. It just may be training in conversations, but I can check to see if there's any written policy. I mean, it goes along with the Constitution. I don't know if they actually have that written and say that, but I think I defer to Mr. Rice on this one.
Yeah, I mean, so I understand the baseline constitutional arguments here, but you also mentioned exigencies. So I'm really I'm not well versed on where the dividing line is here. Do you have any kind of written legal advice from corporate legal or anything like that we can kind of review of what their policy is and how it relates to any kind of case law that might be informative?
So I will check on the actual written policy, but in general terms, we have a training procedure that's supported by our legal department and our risk management department that asks us to refrain from giving away information without a subpoena or a warrant. If that does happen, if I would receive a subpoena or a warrant, I would then immediately call at any hour of the night my corporate attorney, which they have a 24-hour access line, and to get so they can read it and then act on it. In this case, it was a little bit strange because we weren't really given a real sense of urgency from the police when they arrived, to my understanding. You know, I was not there that evening per se, but that's what my team had described to me. But to answer your question, I'm not sure if the actual written policy of that, but it is a policy that we do support through training at our corporate office, and then the corporate team comes to train us on those incidences.
Okay, I just think it would be very helpful if I could,
I'll check, yeah.
yeah, see some policy and obviously as, you know, trying to evaluate where the line is here, maybe even some citation to the, you know, the current state of case law on this issue. If it's available, what your position is regarding the case law. Thank you.
Nothing further from me. Thank you.
Sergeant Gallagher?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to make note that the police report did note that the officers actually did have the key to the room that they obtained from the victim. And if I'm not correct, the licensee is supposed to, upon request of the police, provide them a ledger of the guests staying within the hotel. That is part of the licensing board rules. I'm not sure how that would mesh against the Fourth Amendment, but in order for us to get a warrant to search the room, it would entail us to actually freeze the room and maybe the hallway of, and that would probably take some time. Just wanted to throw that out there as well. Be kind of disruptive to the hotel staff and guests. When, if in this incident, if what we took note of is if the officers were allowed to go up to the room and open the door with the key that they did have, and the suspect was inside, he would have been placed under arrest at that time, and there would not have been a second call. And God forbid what could have happened. That's what I'm just thinking. I mean, there was blood on the sheets. There was evidence of an assault, though the victim did not let on that she was assaulted in the room. There was clear evidence that an assault had taken place, and all this could have been avoided if the officers were allowed to go up to the room the first time and place the suspect under arrest. God forbid that she was killed, and it'd be a completely different story.
Should I just ask that, you know, clearly here the victim, as stated in the police report, was transported to the hospital. If there was any threat of further harm, the police certainly could have been with the victim, you know, at that time. And clearly, you know, if you want me to further disclose, the case law is pretty straightforward on this, unless there is the belief that a crime is being committed at that location at that time, then they do not have a right to search and seize without a warrant. So again, I don't think the impression that the staff received from the police officers was that it was an emergency situation, that they needed to go there, that there was some threat that further harm would occur, especially where the victim here was with the either with the police or at the hospital under observance. So that's all I would say to that. And again, I think what you have is the hindrances regarding that specific instance when the two officers, you know, went to the hotel requesting information. I just don't think it meets the requirements there, and everything the staff did was to protect you know, the privacy of the staff. If had circumstances warranted themselves, they could have received a warrant. There would have been time. I don't think they would have met that exigent circumstances that I alluded to earlier.
Okay, one follow-up question. When the officers arrived and spoke to the hotel security director, was the hotel security director aware that the officers had the hotel room key?
I would defer to Mr. Williams on that. Mr. Williams?
No, I'm not sure he was aware. I'm not sure he was aware.
Do you know how long the interaction took place? Can you describe, was it a couple minutes, couple seconds? How quick was that interaction with the officers?
When the officers arrived, it was less than a minute. We spoke for less than a minute. 2 seconds.
And that wasn't part of the report that the police officers presented a hotel key, or that they didn't? And like, I'm assuming there was an internal report after this. I'm trying to find out, the testimony makes it sound like the officers just asked if Keith Albert was staying at the hotel. What Sergeant Gallagher is saying, the police officers left the hospital, went to the hotel with the victim's hotel room key. Were you aware of that? Or was your security staff aware that the police came from the hospital with a victim's hotel room key?
No, I was not aware of that. I didn't see them present the key. They didn't present the key to me when I spoke to them on the front desk.
Okay, were you aware they came from the hospital?
No. Actually, Madam Chair, I don't think the police report states that about, it doesn't, I don't think that it really matters, but it just says, I think the victim was transported to the hospital and then there was a call and the officers responded. I don't believe they necessarily came from the hospital.
Okay, no, I think you might be right, but I just want to know, were they aware that they had a victim's hotel key?
Not sure. They could have obtained the key prior. I'm not sure. But you know, the following statement doesn't really specify whether or not those officers, you know, presented the key to the staff and.
No, it doesn't. That's why I'm asking, was there an internal hotel staff report made after this incident? Oftentimes there is, if there's something that happens at a licensed premise.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you forward that to the board before we vote?
Sure, I can, Mr. Rice, we can look into that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can forward that.
Thank you.
Anything further from the board?
I just have a couple of maybe hypothetical questions, but say the police, say you did have a situation when the police showed up with a name and a key card. Would you object to identifying what room was attached to that key card?
I mean, this is a hypothetical. I don't know that it's even here, but I don't know what the key card has to do with anything.
Attorney Aida, I'm trying to find out where the line is here in this situation. And like I said, I'm not fully up to date on my Fourth Amendment hotel, you know.
Yeah, my understanding is unless there's a crime being committed at the hotel or the police are in active pursuit of a crime being committed and they are led to the hotel for that reason. This is not that. This is they're looking to witness, identify someone and have a conversation with a witness and or alleged assailant. My understanding is that does not meet those exigent circumstances. So I'm not sure what the key card has to do with that in the sense that if
Well, they don't have the room number, right? They just have a key card and they're trying to.
I think, and I would defer to the hotel staff, I think that in your scenario, that it would be the same situation. It would depend on if there's belief that a crime is being committed at the hotel, which is, or that there's a threat that evidence would be destroyed in the room. I don't think we had either of those circumstances. That's my understanding. Those are things that I've reviewed in anticipation of this.
Yeah.
With Fourth Amendment rights. However, they have come down clear that a hotel room is considered to be protected, even if it's a short-term residency, and the staff has done what they were told, which is the same thing as the privacy rights for their guests, and they are protected under that amendment.
Okay, what if they had the name and the room number? Would the staff stop the police from accessing the floor and knocking on the door of the room?
No, we would not, no.
Okay, so if they had that information, they could have went to that particular room and knocked and made an attempt to make contact with the individual.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further?
I'm just gonna, back to our rules about having your registry available for inspection by police. Is that something you train your staff about? And what does that mean to you? To me, if a police officer shows up and says, is this person, you know, registered gastro, is there Keith Albert here? I would think that that would equal a police inspection of your registry.
I'd have to defer to John on that. You know, I'm not as familiar with that rule specifically. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd have to review that honestly, because just giving out the names of their guests could be a violation of that. So I'd have to look into that further.
Okay, and to echo what Sergeant Gallagher said, it's section 3, special additional rules for inholders. Your registry needs to be available for inspection by licensing authorities, agents, and the police. So instead of confirming whether or not Mr. Albert was staying there, this might have been a situation where you could have shared your registry.
Yeah, I
see.
think that was shared. I don't know that they would have the right to give out the room number and further the, you know, if that was the intention, which I believe it was, of the police to actually go physically to that room and question Mr. Albert here. But we'll certainly review that, and I know that, you know, we'll look at that, you know, policy as well.
This could have ended very differently, so I think this might be something you need to review closely and what it means when a Boston police officer or any other police officer shows up.
Thank you. Anything further from the board on this matter? Okay. The board will take this matter under advisement and we will await the additional requested submission as well. Those are all of the items before the board this morning, and that will adjourn this morning's license premise inspection hearing. Thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you.